I never thought my quiet life on a bison ranch would turn into a showdown with a suburban dictator, but here we are, my bulls, in a story that'll make you laugh, shake your head, and maybe even cheer a little. I'm Jack Harlan, a retired Marine, 55 years old, who traded combat boots for cowboy boots and bought a rugged patch of land in northern Montana, just outside the manicured grip of a place called Willow Creek Estates. My ranch, Harlan's Hollow, sits on 80 acres of rolling plains, home to 20 bison big, moody beasts I've come to love like family, especially my lead bull, Brutus, a 2,000-pound giant with a stare that could stop a tank. It all started with a woman named Linda Grayson, the HOA president of Willow Creek, who rolled up to my gate one crisp fall morning in her gleaming white SUV, heels clicking on my gravel like she was auditioning for a courtroom drama. I was mending a fence post when she strutted over, clipboard in hand, perfume cutting through the smell of hay and dust. "Mr. Harlan," she said, voice sharp as a razor, "your fence is an eyesore, and those creatures are a public safety hazard." I wiped the sweat off my brow, leaned on my shovel, and said, "Ma'am, this is private Lammy land. Your HOA doesn't call the shots here." She gave me this tight little smile, like I was a kid who didn't know the rules, and said, "We'll see about that." Then she spun around, her SUV peeling out like she'd just declared war. I didn't think much of it at first, thought she'd huff and puff and move on. But Linda wasn't the type to let things go. She had this need to control everything, like my ranch was a smudge on her perfect suburban canvas. See, Willow Creek was all about cookie-cutter lawns and matching mailboxes, and my bison, with their shaggy hides and thunderous hooves, didn't fit her vision of community standards. Over the next few weeks, it was like she'd launched a covert of letters started showing up in my mailbox, official-looking nonsense about non-compliant fencing and livestock violations. One even demanded I tear down my barn because it was historically inaccurate. My barn's been standing since my granddad's day, longer than her HOA's been whining. I took the letters to my lawyer, Tom Carver, a guy who'd rather wrestle paperwork than a grizzly. He laughed, flipping through the stack. "Jack, they've got no jurisdiction, your land's exempt, clear as day in the county records. But this Linda, she's trouble. People like her don't stop until they're stopped." He was right. Soon, I noticed little things, tire tracks near my fence at night, a drone buzzing over my pasture, even a water valve tampered with costing me a day's work. I couldn't prove it was Linda, but it had her name written all over it. Then my neighbor, Sarah Tate, a beekeeper with a heart bigger than her hives, stopped by with a warning. "They had a meeting about you, Jack," she said, setting a jar of honey on my porch. "Linda's got the board riled up, saying your bison are a lawsuit waiting to happen. She's planning something big." That's when I got serious, locked the gate with a new keypad, added motion sensor cameras, and strung extra wire around the pasture. I wasn't looking for a fight, but I'd been in enough battles to know when someone's testing your line. And Linda was testing mine, poking at it like a kid with a stick at a hornet's nest. Then came the day she crossed it. It was early, sun barely up, and I was in the barn when I heard tires crunching way too close. I stepped outside, and there she was, Linda, marching up my drive like she owned it, camera in one hand, HOA badge pinned to her blazer like a sheriff's star. Her SUV was parked crooked, half off the dirt, engine still humming. "I'm here to inspect your property," she called out, snapping a photo of my barn. "Your structures violate our aesthetic guidelines." I walked toward her, slow, boots steady on the gravel. "You're trespassing, Linda. Those signs on the gate, they're not decoration." She didn't even blink, just kept snapping photos. As HOA president, I have a duty to protect our community's value. I pointed to the fence, where my sign screamed private property livestock enter at own risk. "You see those? They mean you turn around, or you're rolling the dice." She smirked, brushing past me like I was a speed bump. That's when Brutus, grazing 100 yards off, lifted his head. His eyes locked on her, and I felt the air shift like the calm before a storm. "Last warning," I said, voice low. She ignored me, raising her camera again. I stepped in front of her, not touching, just solid, and for a split second, I saw it fear flickering behind her designer sunglasses. She backed off, muttering about lawyers, and peeled out, leaving dust and a bad feeling in my gut. I called Tom that afternoon. "She's not stopping," I told him. He sighed. "Post a cease and desist on the gate. We'll make it official." So I did big, bold, laminated, with Tom's office number in red. But Linda wasn't done. She came back, and this time, she didn't just cross the line, she smashed through it. It was a Wednesday, late afternoon, sun dipping low, painting the hills gold. I was fixing a water line when I heard an engine roar and the gate groan. I dropped my wrench and ran, heart pounding like I was back in a war zone. Rounding the barn, I froze. Linda's SUV was 30 yards into my pasture, right in the middle of the bison field. She'd punched in an old Cotomy mistake for not changing it after a repair guy came through. The gate was bent, her bumper scraped, and there she was, windows up, scanning the herd like she was on safari. Brutus and his brother, Duke, were already squared up, heads low, nostrils flaring. They didn't like surprises, and Linda was one hell of a surprise. I waved my arm, shouting, "Back up, Linda! Get out now!" But she didn't hear me or didn't care. Then she did the dumbest thing possible. She honked. That horn blared like a gunshot, and Brutus let out a bellow that shook the ground. Before I could blink, he charged, slamming into her SUV's side with a crunch that echoed for miles. The car rocked, Linda screamed, and Duke followed, smashing the rear so hard the back wheels lifted off the ground. Dust exploded, tires spun, and Linda, God help her, rolled down her window to yell, "Control your animals." I was sprinting now, shouting Brutus's name, knowing it wouldn't do much. Bison don't negotiate. She scrambled out, tripping over her heels, hitting the dirt hard, screaming like she'd seen death itself. I vaulted the fence, arms wide, roaring nonsense to pull the bull's attention. Brutus paused, snorted, and thanked the stars backed off. Duke followed, pawing the earth their message delivered. I crouched by Linda, who was sobbing into her purse. "You hurt?" I asked, voice cold. She glared through tears. "Your monsters tried to kill me." I stood, pointing to the sign she'd ignored. "You drove into their home, Linda. You rolled the dice." She limped to her wrecked SUV dents like craters, a cracked window, one tire flat, and sped off, gravel flying. The footage from my cameras caught it all. Her breach, the honk, the charge. I sent it to Tom and my old Marine buddy, Mike Torres, now a county wildlife officer. "She's done," Mike said. "That's criminal trespass on protected livestock land." But Linda wasn't done. She doubled down, posting a newsletter calling my bulls rogue and me a negligent menace. She even filed a lawsuit claiming emotional trauma and vehicle damage, demanding I relocate my herd. I just shook my head. She'd picked a fight with the wrong guy. The turning point came when Linda tried one last stunt. She showed up with a camera crew, filming some kind of expose on my dangerous ranch. They crossed the fence, ignoring signs again, and started shouting, waving a red binder like a matador's cape. Brutus wasn't having it. He charged, flipping her SUV like it was cardboard. Linda fell, screaming, as the crew ran. The kicker? Her camera was streaming live to the HOA's YouTube channel. The internet tore her apart. Why is she on his land? Who honks at a bison? Her own footage buried her. In court, it was over before it started. Judge Clara Holt watched the video, saw the signs, heard Linda's "just keep filming" line, and shut it down. "Ms. Grayson, you trespassed repeatedly. Case dismissed." My countersuit hit harder. Trespassing, defamation, harassment. We had everything: footage, Mike's wildlife report, even a statement from Sarah, who'd seen Linda's vendetta from the start. The HOA board cracked, forcing Linda to resign. She signed an apology, posted it online, and slunk off to some gated community in Arizona, where I hear she's still persona non grata. Now, my ranch is quiet again. Brutus and Duke graze under the stars, and I've started a program with Mike and a local conservationist teaching folks about bison and property rights. Kids come out, wide-eyed, snapping photos, learning what it means to respect the land. I'm not a hero, just a guy who stood his ground. But I'll tell you this, when I look at Brutus, scarred and steady, I know we didn't just win a fight. We reminded people that some things land, freedom, truth are for sale, no matter how loud someone screams. So what do you think? Was I right to dig in, or should I have played nice with the HOA? Drop a comment. Tell me your stories ever had to face down a bully with a badge. Let's hear it.